blinded, freedom dying, our fears were coming true. The wind was raging, ocean crashing, sound of drums were no more. People crying, a nation dying, the eagle failing to soar.
To rise up.
Time to make our voices heard. Time to take our place. It is time to rise up.
I have a dream that one day.
Give me the healing of this nation.
Do not think small when the battle is big.
Give me the deliverance of this nation. Give me all that you have had for this nation. My God, whom I serve.
What touched Canada has always gone out and blessed other nations.
But our focus and our gaze is into his eyes that are passionately looking upon us and saying, you can do this if you will let me.
And I am going to go be a part of seeing a nation shift.
I want to make a call for the revivalists and the reformers of this nation to take their place.
All right. We are live, and if you're already on, thank you for joining us today. I am Art Lucier. This is another edition of Arrows and Incense, which is a newer program to the Canadian Firewall. We felt a need to encourage and teach people as far as prophetic acts, prophetic intercession, what it means to stand in the gap, be an intercessor. Today today is going to be a little bit of a different bent. Still very fitting for this program. This program is led by myself, Bill Olson at times, Keisa McDonald at times. So we take turns, and it's my turn, and I'm excited. Though right after this program, I have to jump on the road and hit the trail. This is why I'm wearing my Battle for Canada shirt on. As you saw that promo, most of you have seen that promo. That was our last Battle for Canada event that we had in Prospera Place, February of 2020, before the world got locked down. The scripture verse for that event and even for that year was, "Believe as prophets, and you shall prosper." Of course, now it's 2022, and one of the key verses for this year and for our last and fifth and final battle for Canada, is 2 Chronicles 20:22, which is, "As they began to praise the Lord, God sent ambushes against the enemies." So we're very excited that it's finally on. Our last and fifth and final Battle for Canada is happening July 1st in Winnipeg, right downtown at the Forks, in a stadium, open air stadium. We're so excited. Tickets will go on sale soon. And of course, the cost of a ticket is $22, the number of the double portion of this year. This is such an incredible time of fulfillment. Different scriptures and things decreed and declared coming to pass. It really is the year of mantles, double portions, Elijah to Elisha's. It is a year of praise and worship that brings down the presence of God. It's the year of Isaiah 22:22, and the keys being given, placed upon our shoulders so that we can open and that we can shut. It is a year of Revelation 22:2 being fulfilled, that the leaves will be used for the healing of the nations. It's time for Canada to arise. And so with that, let's get to our program here today. And if you're watching this on Sunday night at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, we are, me and my sidekick, my armor bearer here, Mathieu, which I'll introduce to you in a sec, will be starting our fourth meeting in 4 days. What's happening is, today, right after this program, we're here live in Kelowna right now, but we're going to jump in my truck and we're going to drive to Trail, British Columbia in the Kootenays, and it begins our first of 4 meetings in 4 nights in 4 different provinces. Some people say, well, that's a little bit crazy for anyone to do. But it is springtime, as it says in, I believe it's Chronicles chapter 11, or is it Samuel chapter 11? In springtime, when kings go off to war, it is springtime. But unfortunately, in that scripture, David stayed home, and he kind of got in trouble that time. But it's springtime. We're going off to war. We're going to go do some run to the battles. We're going to spread some faith, fire, and freedom, starting in Trail, British Columbia tonight at 6:30. I'm so excited to be with Gord Harding and Gord and Beth there, and with different friends like Troy and Kim, different ones that it's going to be. I'm excited for the Kootenays. There is a work that is going to the next level in the Kootenays, and then we're off to Medicine Hat on Friday night, 7 o'clock at the barn with the Remnant Church with a guy by the name of Dwayne. And then we're over to Weyburn, Saskatchewan, Saturday night, 7 o'clock. You can see the poster for the address. And then, of course, over to Winkler, 6:30 in Winkler. And it's experiencing flooding there right now in Winkler. Flooding. They had a snowstorm, ice storm. Now there's flooding. That's interesting. Maybe first in the natural and then in the spiritual. There's coming a flood to Winkler. A refiring of the revival fires for Winkler. I'm excited. As excited as I am about bringing, conscripting and doing the battle for Canada and inviting people to Winnipeg. I'm also excited about the next season. I feel we're going to pull from the next season into now and spread some revival fire. Like I said, though, I'm heading out with a trusty sidekick of mine, and for this program especially, it's fitting to call him an armor bearer. We are talking about a form of intercession, finding favor with God and with men. You see, not every intercessor, not every intercessor has the same favor with God. It says in Luke 2:52, Jesus himself had to grow in stature and in favor and in wisdom with both God and men. And this is not the first time in Scripture that we see that statement. In fact, it says in 1 Samuel 2:26, it says Samuel grew in stature and in favor and in wisdom with both God and men. Luke must have read the book of Samuel, because he then said Jesus had to grow in stature and in wisdom and in favor with both God and men. The same wording. Samuel had to. Jesus had to. You have to. We have to. We have to grow in stature and in favor. And how do we do this? And by the way, what does it look like, and what is one of the end results of growing in favor with God? God hears your prayers. God does not hear everybody's prayers the same. In Jeremiah 15, we actually see God say to the prophet Jeremiah, and he said, listen, I don't care if Moses and Samuel were standing here in front of me, I wouldn't listen. Remember, Samuel is one who grew in favor with God. But God says to Jeremiah, he's trying to intercede on behalf of the nation of Israel so they don't go in exile. And God says, listen, I don't care if Moses and Samuel were standing in front of me, I wouldn't listen. Kind of a hard story, but there's a truth and a principle in there. Some people have greater favor with God. Remember, Moses actually changed the mind of God. Moses had enough favor with God to change his mind. So, we're going to talk today about growing in favor, how we do that. And just before we do get to our guest here on Arrows and Incense, I'm just letting you know that I had a journey of growing in favor with God and with men myself. And yes, you must grow with both. You must grow in favor and in stature with men and with God. How do we grow in stature with God? Well, you become obedient. You fall in love with him. You exalt him. You put God before the world. You put his word before your own passions. You put his ways before your ways. You seek him until you find him. You listen to his voice. You obey his voice. You grow in favor with God. We're not talking about salvation. Salvation's free. But to grow in favor with God, that costs you. You must grow in favor with God. No different than growing in favor with men. If you do not have favor with men, they won't receive you, listen to your message. They possibly won't even trust you. I had to grow in favor with both God and men. How did I grow in favor with men? There were times and movements, including the Journey of Freedom with Kenny Blacksmith. I want to believe that I served him well. It was during that Journey of Freedom that I wrote that song that began this program, Forgiven and Free. I served him. I went wherever. I left my job behind. I received no wages to go on this journey. It cost me a lot to go on this journey and to serve Kenny Blacksmith's vision, which he had heard from God for the Journey of Freedom. But that was 12 years ago. I've also served others I'm not going to get into here necessarily per se at this time. but I know what it's like to have to serve. And I know what it's like to grow in favor with both God and men. Well, let me introduce, I say all that to set up this program and to introduce our guest on Arrows and Incense today. A young man that many of you know from my Facebook. I baptized him in the frozen waters of Kelowna on December 31st in 2020. And he has served now our church for the last year and a half, served very well, not even a year and a half. He's actually serving the Kelowna Harvest Church in many different ways, whether it's in altar ministry, but he's also our head usher. He's helped in security. He's packed our instruments and he's packed our sound system so many times. He was always there when we did our worship delios and protests outside. And now he's my sidekick on these run to the battles. His name's Mathieu Cloutier, and he's a prodigal. He's come home to the Lord, and now he's finding himself growing in both favor with both God and men. So I want to welcome to today's program, Mathieu Cloutier. Mathieu.
How you doing?
Fantastic, man. So Mathieu and me, we're just about to hit the road. And it said, oh, yeah, let's go do this recording today. Da, da, da. And I said, well, we're going to go live. He goes, what? So, yeah. So now live, you only get one shot at it. And if you kind of mess up and do a little blooper, there's no necessarily way of fixing it. Now, if we do a little something that our sound doesn't work, Mo, our trusty tech guy, our tech armor bearer for our ministry, he can clip it and fix it. But we are live, and it's so exciting to be with you guys. And so, Mathieu, have you been on one of these programs before?
Not once.
Not once. Wow. What took you so long? Okay, yeah. I'll tell you what took so long. We had to just feel that he was ready. He's been growing in favor with both God and with men. And so what led to this program was our last run to the battle, which was a few weeks ago. We, we put on just over 4,000 kilometers in 8 days. But someone gave you a book before we hit the road. And what was that book?
God's Armor Bearer by Terry Nance.
God's Armor Bearer.
Yeah.
Now, you've read a lot of books. By the way, I give Matt books to read. I said you should read this, you should read that. But that's only a small portion of what he's actually read. This is what I encourage you to do, by the way. Read about the past revivals. Read different books on the kingdom, as well as your Bible. Don't neglect reading the Word of God, and don't neglect reading different books like Mathieu has done. By the way, Gary says, you got this, bro. You can see that's just awesome. Hey, everyone. Love you guys. And by the way, we are going to be doing some lives on the road when we do hit these next 4 provinces in 4 days. And that's not the end of our journey. We're going to be in Manitoba for a couple days there. We're going to go back to the venue. We're going to be hanging out with Fresh Sailly. We're going to be hanging out with some pastors. Then we're going up to Yorkton. We're going to Prince Albert for a couple days, May 5th and 6th, Prince Albert area. Mathieu and myself will be there at the Canadian Revival Center. And then for 2 days, we're with Michelle and Fred Pexa. Saturday night, somewhere in Saskatoon. And then Sunday morning at Catch the Fire Church. Oh, and then we're going to blow over to Edson. We're going to hang out with Chris Bernacki. And then it's going to be definitely time to get home. Putting another 4,000 plus kilometers on the truck. But you were given a book on our last journey. Who gave you that book?
A friend of mine, Lance, Gary's
brother.
Twin brother.
Twin brother.
Yeah.
Oh, Vincenza says hi, Mathieu. We'll be seeing her soon.
Yeah, I was invited for dinner, after dinner on a Sunday, a couple weeks before we left for that first run for the battle. We're just chatting and sharing. And I'm sharing about, my journey and my walk for the last year and so, and he says, "You're an armor bearer." I said to him, "I've never heard that word before. Never, and I can make sense of it." So I said, "Okay, cool. Thank you. Right on." And then the night, 2 days before leaving, the last weekend, at the end of the service, one of her elders comes to me, Devandi, and blesses me for the trip. And then she says, "I just need you to know that we see you, we see what you're doing, we see what you do with art, and you're an armor bearer, and we just bless you and just bless your trip." And I said, "Interesting. This is the second time I hear this word in 2 weeks, like 2 times in my life. There's something to this." The night before leaving, I come home, and that friend who gave me the word in the first place calls me and says, "Hey, are you home? I've got a little something for you." I said, "Yeah, I'll be home right now." And he just shows up 10 minutes later and gives me the book, God's Armor Bearer. And it just was just confirmation after confirmation. And then, so I just took it on the trip. It was perfect. And I shared it with you, and
You were sharing some of the parts. You were like, "Oh, wow, listen to this. Oh, wow.
it was incredible.
Oh, wow, listen to this. Listen to this." Now, listen, we're not going to over spiritualize anything, and we're not going to bring cool terms, just say, armor bearer, some, mystical thing. It's simply, we want to try and break down the biblical principles and understanding of growing in favor, becoming a servant. So I pray right now that you'd have ears to hear, eyes to see. And I just pray for you, Mathieu, that you'd be able to just bring this clearly forward. I know you've written some notes. It's good to, especially when this is new, write some notes so you don't get, lost in your train of thought. So what we want to do, I'm going to ask Mathieu right now, because he actually did a little PowerPoint thing. Very cool. And he's going to talk about some of the aspects and issues, not issues per se, well, issues that might hinder a favor with God or being an armor bearer. So in just a moment, we're going to throw up some slides, and you can go on some notes. But just before we do that, was this like really revealing to you? Like, was this like a light bulb moment? Or so you get 2 prophetic words, you're an armor bearer, but so then you read the book. So what did it do to you?
For one, it felt God tell me through that, and that I was on the right track. That I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, that I was walking towards my destiny, and it was an encouragement to be acknowledged because when you serve, armor bearing is servanthood. When you serve, and when you serve with all your heart, you don't look for recognition. We don't look for acknowledgement. It doesn't even matter. You're just serving because you want to serve. And so it was just interesting to see God speak through others. And then as I read through the book, I really dug deeper in understanding with God, and he's revealed some very cool stuff to me since.
It's so fantastic. So we're gonna start this these notes here, and I'm gonna ask some questions along the way, and we're gonna make some statements, and yeah, we can see your comments, and we might even take the odd question, if you have something at the end. Depends on our time, because we're trying to keep this under an hour. JJ Fox says we're never supposed to remove our armor. That is correct, sir. It's a simple principle if you want to be great in God's kingdom and to be a servant of all. So those are 2 different things: removing your armor and being a servant. When King Saul or King David were at war, and he's like, "Listen, Greg, give me a javelin, give me a sword." It wasn't about necessarily David's armor that he's wearing, the shield, but he's actually got someone. Because when you have a great warrior, you know, you want to learn from them. But you know, there's a great warrior. The great warrior might need an extra large shield, or he might throw a javelin. He might need another one, and he can't throw like 10 javelins on his back, or he might want a larger sword. He might want just a dagger. And the armor bearer was there to help a great warrior accomplish more. You know, the great warrior is more trained, and he's like he's more seasoned in the fight compared to the armor bearer. And the armor bearer does better in just giving the great warrior, the one who's been in many battles, a hand. That's what I did for Kenny Blacksmith. I didn't know nothing about national gatherings 12 years ago. I'm like, what do you need me to do? What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? You know, actually, yeah. So with that, why don't you ready to throw these up and start to go? Okay, we're going to throw these up, and Matthew's going to take us through some of them. And there it is in the background. So, all right, why don't you start us off here? And what we'll do is we'll bring it right on full screen. There it is. There it is.
Perfect.
Boom, boom, boom.
Awesome. Yeah, what is an armor bearer? Well, it's someone who lays down his life for another. It's servanthood. Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. John 15:13. And it's armor bearers made up of two words that are Hebrew, and the direct translation is nasa and kel-e. Nasa is to accept, bear, further, help, lift, regard, respect, so to assist, and kel-e is to complete, destroy otherly, fulfill, bring to pass, make clear riddance of. It's to stand beside his leader, to assist him, to lift him up, to protect him against any enemy that might attack him. Make his job easier and not be a hindrance. You know, to be an armor bearer, like you need to be able to follow your leader at all times and not be a hindrance. Actually be able to lift him up and uplift him in spirit. The armor bearers in the Old Testament, their horses were as fast and as endurant. You know, they had the same stamina as the leader's horses. So they actually had king quality horses.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So that they could keep up and not be a hindrance.
So I wonder how many armor bearers saved the lives of great warriors. Because, you know, it's like there's a great villain who's just a master of a sword coming, and the armor bearer is not good enough, but he, you know, and say the warrior that he's serving lost his sword, throws him another sword. Here, you know, I wonder how many times he was right there. So the armor bearer, you know, assists and even can save the life of other leaders because that leader's not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Just incredible. So it's Hebrews, 2 words. That's incredible. To accept, bear, to further, to regard, respect, to yield. That's incredible. All right. Well, that's a lot. This is good so far. This is very good. Now, of course, we don't want to just make this all about medieval war and, you know, swords and bows and arrows. But symbolically, even spiritual warfare, you know, as a leader leads a church.
Mm-hmm.
Man, he gets hit and things come at him. And when other people surround him, is like, what do you need? Anyway, I'll let you go on there.
Yeah, and we'll just walk through essentially the duties from the Old Testament to the New Testament, just to understand what the armor bearer was created for in the first place and the evolution of it. And then we can finish with what is an armor bearer for today.
Sounds fantastic. All right. Duties.
Some of the duties, you know, is to provide strength for his leader. I'm not going to go through each and every one of those. You can rewatch the video, but one of them must walk in agreement with and submission to his leader. To refuse to submit to God's delegated authority, their office, is to refuse to submit to God.
You know what, Matt? These are so good. I want to suggest that you do read these all off. These
Okay.
are good. Like, I'm looking at these. It won't take that long. We've
No,
got time.
sure.
Just read them all off. Let's just bang them off.
Must provide strength for his leader. By his presence will display and produce faith and peace. Must deep down have a sense of respect, acceptance, and tolerance for his leader's personality and way of doing things.
Whoa, I gotta say something. We all have different personalities as leaders. And I've said this before, you know, even for my kids. Hey, kids, dad likes things a certain way. And then dad doesn't like things a certain way. Now, if you're smart kids, you're not going to do what dad dislikes. Now, I'm a little quirky, say, if I want the lights turned off when you leave a room, turn off lights. Huh? But it's really simple. It's like some dads wouldn't care. What is the personality really of the leader that you're serving? What's the leader? And by the way, and all of your leaders are human and they're quirky and they have likes and dislikes. They have different tolerances. Some are nicer than others.
Yeah.
You know, so good. Let's go on.
Must instinctively understand his leader's thoughts. And it goes hand in hand with the previous one, is getting to know your leader. How to be a good servant, to be a great servant, you need to understand how your leader works, how he processes, how he functions, how he goes about his day-to-day, is you know, to reach his goal. The armor bearer is created and put in that position to help his leader achieve his goal faster and more efficiently and reach that promotion with God.
I just had a little vision. Just share this. Could you know, with the different personalities, and you know, and really this is talking about servanthood in helping a minister or a ministry, leadership, maybe even helping your parents accomplish something and making their job easier. I just went back to a flash, not back, but I see a flash. You know, there's a bad guy coming. Like I'm back to medieval, not medieval, you know, times of David and Saul and stuff. Yeah. You know, and David has dropped his sword and there's a guy coming at him like fast, and he turns around and he yells at his armor bearer, "Get me that sword, no, the other one." You know, never be offended when, you know, your leader kind of just barks something out. Remember, they're human, and sometimes you don't know all that they're going through or some of the stresses and things that are against them. You know, learn to be a servant even if you get a little bit barked at, you know, because yeah, we're human, you know. All right. That's good.
And with that, must make the advancement of his leader's goal the most important goal. Must possess strength, press, and force his way without giving way under harsh treatment.
Oh, wow.
As you were just mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
Must follow orders immediately and correctly. Must support his leader. Must be an excellent communicator. Must have a disposition that will eagerly gain victories for his leader. And must have the ability to minister strength and courage to his leader.
Now, there is still no excuse for leaders to be ignorant. Now, we're not saying that. We're not giving, license to be ignorant, to be carnal. But what happens if your leader does fall apart one day or lose it, or they bark at you, you know. But yeah, this is not licensed for, you know, for abuse. Absolutely, you know, it's not. But your heart, it's like, here's what I always used to say: everyone wants to be a David, but nobody wants to serve a Saul.
But even with that, like, we don't honor our leaders because they earn it. So
wow, that's right.
I mean, they don't, you know, we honor our leaders because it's how God, it's his ways of doing things. You know, it's for our own process with God and how we navigate in the body. And people are people. They're not perfect. They're not robots. And often we see a leader make a mistake and we go, oh, they shouldn't. You know, it's like, who are we to judge leaders for being human? We have our valleys and our mountains. So do leaders. They're not, you know, that actually never goes away, does it?
No. This reminds me, I'm going to come back to you, but you said about honor, or respect. It's I had this vision years ago when I was in Kidman. The Lord showed me so clearly. Showed these group of people, and they had their armor on, and they were marching off to war. And this one person threw down their sword and shield and says, I'm not valued around here. I'm out of here. And they threw down their shield and the sword. And it's so easy, right, to leave a post. What you said just about honor.
Mm-hmm.
Say that again. About you said you honor whether or not they deserve it.
Yeah, or earn it. Yeah.
Or earn it. Okay, so the Bible's clear. Honor your father and your mother, that it may go well with you. It doesn't say honor your father and mother if they're deserving.
It's a command.
It's a command.
It's a command. And what God commands, he delights when we follow his commands and his ways. He actually he's really pleased with that, and he blesses everything that you do when you follow his commands.
So I just made a statement too. Everyone wants to be a David, but nobody wants to serve
a Saul.
Saul helped make David. Everyone wants to be a David, but no one wants to serve a Saul. In the midst of David serving so well, he would never raise his hand against Saul. He wouldn't even receive negative talk. God help us, Saul. Wouldn't even receive negative talk against a leader who was trying to kill him. David respected leadership to a degree. And what it did is actually Saul was used to train David and give David tests. Because where Saul failed, David could not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he not only learned not to pick up the spears that Saul was throwing at him, he learned to dodge them entirely.
Ooh.
That's an art.
Ooh. Okay. All right. This is all right. Fantastic. All right. So, are we off that page?
Yep. Next one.
Next page, Mo.
The functions. Functions of an armor bearer. He awakens and inspires leader, helping him to stand all foes. He protects and watches out for his leader continually and continuously. He remains always on duty at his leader's side to tend to any need which may arise. Because they do happen. And
okay, we're going to stop there.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. Remains always on duty at his leader's side to tend any need he may arise. Okay, we're not trying to be weird here. All right, not trying to be weird at all. But I'm just going to let you know, if my kids were working with me on a job and I trained them from the time they were 15, well, not just in the gym, but I actually had a business and I took them. When they would come up and say, hey, what do you need? What do you need? Oh, well, yeah, I need the hose. Get the long hose from the trailer. Go down, get it. Get me 10 2x4s. Bring me the chop saw. I need because I knew what to do. They didn't know how to frame.
Yeah.
But I knew what to do. And when they helped like that and they were proactive, what do you need? I'm like, I don't mind giving him a bonus. I just hey, this kid has it together. It's just like, this kid's making my job easier. Then the next time I go to do a job, I'm like, hey boys, come, let's get this done. And as we start to learn to become a team, it's not anything weird. It's just
Actually, on that,
yeah,
I worked with my father growing up, and
you did as well.
Yeah, and it got to the point where we didn't have to talk to one another while we were working. We'd work side by side, and I remember laying flooring with him, and we just passed a hammer or whatever tool. We just knew that what he's about to do, he needs that, and we just worked together. We would start jobs. Everything that he needed to start was already in place. He didn't even have to ask. And I feel like this is a process that can happen in any setting. It's just when you learn to serve someone, you learn to know everything they need, how they're going to proceed with the tasks that is at hand, what the goal is, and you just provide accordingly to make that process more efficient.
Teamwork.
Yeah, teamwork.
This is, yeah. I've been asked a lot, hey, what can I do? How can I help? I'm not really the best at, I do so much things by myself. Even the administration on this trip, booking our hotels and I do it all. I just have everything. I do it all. Not all leaders can do that or are wired that way. Do you want to grow in favor with leaders, with men, with women? You serve. How can I help you? So this is good, and I know we've got some other points, some good ones coming up. We're going to talk about Jesus, aren't we? And how we serve. Okay, so with that, did we make it through all this whole list?
Not quite.
No, okay. We'll keep on this one. Functions.
Surrenders completely to his leader, trusting him implicitly, and obeying his every command.
Again, not being weird. All right.
Keeps one eye on the leader at all times and the other eye on the enemy, anticipating the actions of both. And I think that's more spiritual than physical, but for today's day and age, helps bring an acceleration in growth and promotion to his leader's progress. Fulfills his leader in every way, getting along with him and making him feel comfortable in giving orders.
Can I just with that, there have been people around us who've helped in our ministry, and I'm just scared of telling them anything. You're afraid of offending them. And just
yeah.
I'll just say to that, we've got to get tougher skin, all of us. And just because, if you go and ask, hey, what can I do for you? Give me a coffee. Now, I don't normally say that. I'll just that some people like that. Can you go get me a coffee? Oh, well, I thought it was going to be something important. It's just you want to make headway. You want to make your leader's life a little bit easier, or you want to serve. It's you talk about Gary's brother gave you the book. Mm-hmm. Gary, who's on here today. So Gary showed up, last year sometime after the whole COVID shutdown thing and and a lot of people started to be called out of their churches or go to different ones, or just like, or churches were closed, so they would go here to whatever was open. But Lori Kaufman said chocolate. Chocolate's a great favor winner, Lori. Anyway, so
I brought a big chocolate bar for the trip because I know
I'm fasting every day though until we hit our meeting. But there's always after, at least until these first four. We're going to hit 4 provinces in 4 days. I got to be clear of the mind. We'll have chocolate after. But yeah, so Gary though shows up and he starts just, hey, what can I do? What can I? And then he's vacuuming after the service. I'm like, what? Then he's leading worship. Then he's helping with, ushering or whatever. I've seen Gary lead worship. And he just gives her for 2 nights, and then we're all packing up, and then he's vacuuming because he's like, well, and he's got kids. It's like, now that's just a practical application. It's
that's the posture.
That's it. But it is a posture.
Yeah, that is the posture. If Jesus came to your church today, and what would be the first thing that he would do?
Wait. If Jesus showed up in any church.
Yeah, any church.
If Jesus showed up in any church, what would he do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, good. I mean, I think that he would go to the pastor and he would ask how he can serve. Because Jesus modeled perfectly servanthood.
Wow.
He was submitted, he was humble, and he was obedient. And that is what enabled him to walk in favor and to be blessed and to have the anointing that he did.
With that in mind, let's go back to that second to last point, who Jesus was, because you just said it. Jesus was obedient and served. What does it say here? Fulfills his leader. And who was Jesus's leader?
God
the Father. Fulfills his leader or the Father in every way, getting along with him and making him feel comfortable and giving orders. No kidding. It's just like, hey, Dad, what do you want me to do? I need you to die, son, on a cross. Like, do you have something nicer for me to do instead of hanging naked on a cross? That's just incredible. Jesus would walk in and say, what can I do? How can I serve? Wow. What's that last point there? What's the last one?
One of the most important. Forgives his leader for any offense immediately and without harboring resentment or anger.
Forgives his leader for any offense immediately without harboring resentment or anger. So fantastic.
You must remain as an armor bearer on God's side at all times. Being that close to the leader, it is imperative that you do not side with the enemy, ever.
So I'm going to tell you a quick little story. I was one of the persons I've served in the past, an incredible prophet. I had 4 altercations with this person. What happened was this person thought I was undermining them. And then they would find out that it wasn't true. They received a bad report. They all 4 times I was actually falsely accused. I was it was a very hard test for me, but I never raised my hand against them. I just took it. I knew that they had been hurt in the past, and so they just thought I was doing the same thing, or they just, they listened to a bad report without talking to me. And I forgave them. I forgave them. I wish I could tell you more of the details, but I don't want to uncover anything.
Mhm.
I'll just say it was a very hard time for me, and I had a choice. Was I going to continue to honor and serve, or was I going to justify speaking bad about them? I've never brought this up except ever to say this was a test for me.
Yeah.
I never uncovered them. I've always honored them. I still honor them. I've had to forgive and not harbor anything. In fact, I do chalk it up to this leader has had some major spears chucked at them, like just major wrongdoing done to them. And I could not take it personally. And it was a test for me to see if I was going to leave my post because of my own hurt or offense, or having a spear chucked at me. I want to believe I passed. I want to believe I'm actually here today in the function and in the favor that I'm in with both God and men in the nation of Canada, because I chose to stick it out and still honor and serve someone who I can considered or do consider a spiritual parent to me. So that's a great point. All right. Well, why don't let's go on to the next page. Is this the last page?
There's
three more. Okay. Well, we better go. Okay,
but they're quick.
There's two more. All right. Let's
quick.
Oh, this one's short.
These are just a few examples of leaders and their armor bearers in Old Testament. Saul, when his armor bearers saw that Paul was dead, he also fell on his sword and died with him. 1 Samuel 31. Jonathan, so his armor bearers said to him, do all that is in your heart. Go then. Here I am with you, according to your heart. 1 Samuel 14:7. And also Saul had another armor bearer that was talked about in the Bible, and it was David. So David came to Saul and stood before him, and he loved him greatly, Saul did, and he became his armor bearer. 1 Samuel 16:21. And these are just few of the examples. Moses, it's not spoken in the Bible as an armor bearer, but Aaron, we could assume that the way the relationship was unfolding, that he was his armor bearer. And Elijah and Elisha was another example of that.
A type of armor bearer.
Yeah, a type. Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily
physical,
swords, exactly. But
yeah.
Right. In fact, it actually says in those days, Gehazi was actually an armor bearer for Elisha. In those days, he used to pour water on the prophet's hands. He used to the prophet would put out his hands and sorry, let me what? And this was like a biblical thing, and just like weird. I don't want anyone washing my hands. Things. They're just like, but let's go on. This is good. Let's go on because we got to fly.
So the service of an armor bearer, its function directly is related to combat. Type of combat has changed from Old to New Testament. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Ephesians 6:22. The duties of an armor bearer in the New Testament is, and I feel this is also applicable to this day, it is to always remain humble with fear and trembling, in sincerity of heart, doing what is pleasing to Christ. Serves his leader well, serving with no reward from men, but knowing that Jesus will reward him one day for his efforts and loyalty. He ministers to his leader in the spirit. He knows how to deal with spiritual forces and helps his leader to stand against the wiles of the devil. These are just some of the duties, but I felt, these explain quite well what.
Amazing. Ministers to his leader in the spirit.
Intercession, perhaps.
Yeah, so good. Praying for him. It just goes so far. Speaking words of affirmation, and just like, even though you get a spear from a leader, to be able to say, I bless you, I'm there till the end. And just like, go, mighty woman or man of God, I'm praying for you. And just like, I see, I'm going to be here no matter what, and so good. All right. That's, we got one more page.
That's it.
This is it. Woo. And we're at, 56 minutes. We're doing good. Right on. Let's go for the last page.
The armor bearers of today will be the leaders of tomorrow.
Oh, no, that's good.
The spirit of an armor bearer is the spirit of Christ.
Say what?
The spirit of an armor bearer is the spirit of Christ. Servanthood.
It is. Dang, that's good. Come on, man. This is good.
Armor bearer is not an office, but it is a servanthood.
Oh, so it's not one of the fivefold.
No.
Where Jesus gave some to be apostles or prophets or evangelists or pastors or teachers. It's not an office. It's not the gift of administration. It's not the gift of a worship leader, but rather it's a posture of servanthood that flows through any number of gifts to make you better. Because if you're a worship leader, but you don't have a servant's heart.
Yeah. Men and women, no exception, kids, older people, everyone is meant to be servants for the body, for a leader, for their parents, for their country.
Jesus said something about that, what the result is of a servanthood. If you want to be great in God's kingdom, be the servant of all. This is good.
Jesus walked in submission, humility, and obedience, modeling for us how to be servants in this kingdom. And we can claim to be submitted to Jesus, but the question is, are we submitted to another human being?
Okay, whose question? Where'd you get this from? Where'd you find this?
That is actually from the first volume of God's Armor Bearer, Terry Nance.
Say it again. Say this again. Say this again.
We can claim to be submitted to Jesus, but the question is, are we submitted to another human being?
I've been told that so often. Well, I submit to God, but not necessarily anyone else. I'm just going to tell you, to grow in favor with men, you need to be submitted. You can't just walk into somebody's church and just not be submitted to that leadership, and just take over. You've got to respect and honor. You can't, as a child, you need to be submitted to your parents, correct? You must be submitted to God. You must be, as it says biblically, you must be submitted. And I know this is you must be submitted to leaders. This is a trigger for so many. This is where so many, I'm just going to tell you, Matt, and here, so many of you fall short of favor with both God and men, because you can't just grow in favor with God. You need to grow in favor with men. If you don't grow in favor with men, you will not grow in favor with God in the same way. It's simple. You might have great giftings, but if you don't have favor with men, they won't receive your gifting, know your message. If they can't trust you, to submit, if you're always going to bring your own agenda, if you think you know better than them, wasn't it tragic? Okay, so as a kid, I moved out of the house as 15. You know why? Because I knew better. At about 20 years old, I had to come to my parents like, I'm sorry. I didn't think you knew what you knew. I thought I knew better. It's just like, you must, and listen, and someone says, well, they're a Saul, who take the model of David, if you're really a man or a woman after God's own heart, and learn even to serve a Saul. I'm not saying you cover up things or you receive abuse. I'm not saying that. But if you can't take simple orders from an eldership, a pastor, a prophet, or an apostle, if you can't come under and submit in ministries, in churches, you hinder yourself, you hinder your destiny, you hinder your favor, and you must grow in favor with both God and men.
Mm-hmm. David and Saul is a prime example of that. It's irrelevant how you feel about how you're treated, that if you just keep the right heart posture, that God takes care of everything and you reach your destiny. It's all dependent on your posture. And this is, I feel really mainly for my generation, but for anybody, any servants of God, that if you learn to submit to the authority that you serve, the office, it doesn't matter who is behind it, then you will grow in favor, and growing in favor, you will walk towards your destiny. I feel that is actually crucial, and why so many of my generation, are not living their destiny, is because they're not submitting and acknowledging the authority and serving. So if we can learn to work together, if we can learn to honor, and this also goes both ways. It's important for leaders to appreciate who serves under them, because it's with them and as a team that they actually fulfilled the assignment that they were assigned on for God. If we can learn to work together, God will change our country.
Well, especially with the emerging ecclesia, there's a rewriting. Churchianity is coming to an end, and a united apostolic prophetic, led with Christ Christ being the cornerstone, with apostles and prophets taking their place, leading. There's a new day in the church. I love some of the comments here, Doug. God works through authority, like a government structure. It's like it's the reason I value the apostolic so much. I believe it's the reason I went through so much garbage in the last 10 years. I was operating on my own with no covering. And Marcia said, the comment went up. It's gone now. I can't see it, but she says, to grow in favor with men. There it is. To grow in favor with men, you need to be submitted to the leaders. Yeah, can you imagine coming into a church and to their leadership saying, I don't really care what you guys think or want. I'm here just to do my own things. Like, good luck growing in favor. But if you grow in favor, it opens doors for you and for your future and for your destiny. And we need that. But we'll never get it without a heart of a servant. So, well, Matt, we're just over the hour mark. We have a long journey ahead of us. This was great. And I believe Kisa's leading Arrows and Incense next week. Pray for us as we hit the road. We're hitting the road right now. We're driving to the Kootenays and for a 12-day road trip. Love you guys. And this has been a great program. Well done, son. Well done with the notes. And God bless you, intercessors, as you grow in favor with God and men. And until next time, this is Art Lucier here at Harvest Studios with another program, another edition of Arrows and Incense. Remember, keep that incense rising before God, your prayers, and keep those arrows flying. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God. Let those arrows go. And if you want to be great, learn to be a servant of all. All right, we'll see you next time.
Bless you, Canada.